some of the things that are in both of those books are basically in ARMs. So, like for example, in both the cutting system and also the initial shield as complex guard system, you keep your weapons together when they're out in front of you, and that's almost definitely correct. That's a very good idea, and we'll talk about why in just a second, because it's very similar to the regular dagger where you don't want to leave an opening between. The system that we developed in our club over time basically says that you want to, most of the time, keep your buckler extended out in front of you, almost all of the time, keep your buckler extended out in front of you, and most of the time, keep your sword out extended out in front of you somewhat, so that you're able to interact with your opponent and deal with them. Okay, so let's talk about the guards, and now we should spread out enough that people should get their bucklers so that they can mimic what we're doing, and then so yesterday I did a regular dagger workshop where we talked only about 2 guards that are useful, and the reason for this is that the thrust is too good in regular dagger. But here we want to talk about a couple of extra ones, and it's actually worth doing a little section on one of them, right? So it's worth actually going through and explaining what they are. So the first one looks like this. You have your buckler out in front of you, and you have your sword up against it. In a minute, I'm going to test something with the buckler for each one of you, but we'll go through all of these first. You keep your buckler out in front of you, and you keep your sword out. You have to always, if you can, keep your sword hand behind your buckler. At no point should you, if you can avoid it, go like this. Right? This is exposed to your hand. It would be better to not do that. Keep your buckler in the way that you can. Okay. This guard is called longa in the Italian system. Long points. We call this an extended guard, right? Then next, this guard only has a number in I-33, but it's the one that I favor, so I've named it corda, which means short guard. So if this is long guard, this is short guard. So just pull back so that you're comfortably closer to your hip. You can have it at a bit of an angle, the sword, and you still want to have the shield in exactly the same place. It's just changing the sword from being extended out to the shield, being mostly protected. So these are the 2 main guards. The reason that they're the 2 main guards is that they allow us to interact with our opponent and hold the center, and then attack from the center. The difference between the 2 of them is that one of them allows us to fence with our sword, and the other one tries to take space with the buckler while reserving the sword for later use, right? So that second guard is the one that I prefer, because I would like to use the buckler to touch their sword so that my sword is free to do whatever I like, right? Okay. So then, in most of these sources, there's like a constellation of guards where your sword is what we would call retracted, refused, out of play, but your buckler stays in exactly the same place as it was before, right? So buckler stays out, same spot, and then you put your sword somewhere else. So a good example is up here, like this. We might call this Donna. This is one of the numbered guards from I-33. We might hold it down here. We might hold it over here. That's basically the same thing, but it's a little different. We might hold it over here like this. We might hold it under our arm like this. We might hold it above our arm like this. All of these are fine, right? But they're all doing basically the same thing. They're saying, I am going to cut from back here, and then as I come to the center, I'm going to come to where my buckler is, basically, and then I'm going to have the opportunity to, be clever, or change my momentum, or force a blow through, or something like that. So, when we're holding the center, we're safe. When we're doing this, we're clever, or tricky, or strong, right? And so these are very valuable things to be able to do, but we're actually not going to focus on them today. We're going to focus on those first 2 positions and what opportunities they offer us, because the third hour is how to destroy people who are in these guards, how to predict what they're about to do and then counter it, basically, because it's normally pretty obvious if you want to do them. Okay, so what we're going to start with first is in one of these guards, let's say the longa position, we're going to talk about the 3 basic attacks that you can make. The options are that we can attack inside the sword between the weapons, or we can attack outside the sword, or we can attack over the shield. We all agree that these are the 3 basic things that you can do. You can also attack below the shield, and in theory you could attack under the sword, but most of the time you have your guard somewhere in the way, so those don't really make sense. We agree that those are like the basic openings to the body, right? Okay, So the first one that we're going to talk about is attacking between the weapons. Diego grew up in my club. Okay, so the first thing that you should understand is that you can attack any of these openings when they are open, but this one is the best one to attack when it is open, because when your sword goes through the tip of your sword between the weapons, I am able to use my sword to push it out of the way and then access the target, and it's far away from the weapon, right? So we call this the attack between. It's a simple thrust between. But we're going to do it with something called the bind, which I explained yesterday for those of you who were there, but we're going to just do it exactly the same way that we did yesterday. Before I do this, I'm going to explain something. So when you are fighting an opponent, you can't just open yourself up completely. So I could just attack him, right? What is stopping him from killing me at the same time? Only timing and distance.
Exactly.
There is nothing stopping him at this point. However, if I put my sword in the way and make it so that the only path for him to hit my body quickly is through my sword, then I will be able to control his next action in a way that may keep him safe. So there's this idea that you should be careful about making your simple attack into someone's opening, because they may counterattack at the same time, right? You have to always be worried about that. You have to always be worried that they might just choose to attack you at the same time. And the way to solve this is to put your sword in counter posture so that your sword is between their potential action and you, right? And this is where we arrive at this find, and this is how we want to construct our attack at all times. We want our sword to be in between their potential attack and us, right? So in this case, when Diego takes this guard, what I want to do is I want to put my sword over his sword, across his sword, and also I want to be further down my sword than he is at the contact point, right? So I want to be strong, my strong on his weak, or my stronger on his weaker at least, right? Depending on where we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this initial position, and then I'm just going to push through and hit Diego, right? So we're just going to practice this. We're going to have a coach and a student. These two roles are the same as yesterday. So our coach is expected to train the student to do the action correctly. They are the clay on which the action, the student's learning is done. And their responsibility is to make sure that the student has learned the lesson appropriately and was given the right opportunity to make the action. So in this case, what our coach is going to do is they are going to intentionally open up a line between their sword and their buckler, even bigger than that, like this, right? And then the student is expected to make the action that I just described. But they do it in a very particular way. So our coach is going to open up like this. We are going to advance into measure, which I'm not going to describe today because we're just talking about some buckler and not all commencing. And then they're going to get this find action. And then they're going to lunge and hit with the find from distance, right? So it's going to look like this every time. It's going to be an advance, and the find, and then a lunge. I would like you to keep your buckler forward the whole time, so that you are interacting with this buckler sword unit with the guards together. Does that make sense? So it's a pretty simple drill. In a minute, I'm going to change it, but we'll start with that. Sound good? All right. So please line up in two lines, one along this side and one along this side. Lined up opposite to the partner, please. And we're going to move throughout the time, so you guys have that's with a lot of people. Thanks. How do weapons?
Maintaining any system.
Yeah. So I've actually seen this. I mean, as you know, the saber is right here. It's a saber.
I supported it, Alexander. Yeah. I think it could work.
Yeah.
It's viable.
You didn't get one?
No. We have one, but it's one that has to do with
mean, he said Jagger was not gonna change, so it's not really gonna be any different for you. Does anybody have an extra buckler by chance? Anybody have an extra buckler? Alright, we'll scrape every last one.
Yeah, I already gave him the other one, I think.
All right, pause for just a second, and then attend to me. Keep your same partners. So I want to explain one thing that I didn't mention before, though I'm glad that everyone got an opportunity to try it out and to feel it out. But let's add one additional element to this. So when you make this action coming inwards, what I want you to do is I want you to place your sword on near the point of their sword, right? And then I want you to maintain that exact point of contact all the way in until the very end when you slide down the sword at the end. The reason for this is, when I make this initial contact, since I'm stronger on Diego's weak, if he tries to push against it, it will do nothing. And then when I get even further in, it's even worse, right? And then if I angle it just a little bit, it'll slide into my crosshair. And once I'm here, if he tries to push, he's extremely stable, and then I can even brace against his body to make sure that he can't do this right away. Does that make sense? So basically, you want to slide down that same contact point all the way into the body. I don't think it was made, but anyway, this is the bind and counter posture. So you want to have your strong arm weakened to maintain that same point of contact all the way in. Like draw a line from that initial contact point all the way into their shoulder. Does that make sense? It is your choice where you want it to be in for something to do after. I would say logically, if you
Alexander, what are we still short of?
sorry,
What if he doesn't have she doesn't have
I've got an extra jacket hanging up, if you wanna wear my extra jacket.
Sorry, I thought somebody else.
You want me to run home and get a couple, I think I've got a couple more books there, but.
I think that makes sense. You're right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she can.
I think that's better.
That one, that's a PX, it should be.
Like for example, if you make the same thing like this, I'd say that's better. You know, 15 seconds. Remember to keep your buckler forward. I'm seeing people generally do this, but please remember to keep your buckler forward and practice this. Please just keep it forward.
Yeah, that's.
All right, pause for a second. One thing that I forgot to mention, but a lot of people did from yesterday, is please switch after 5 repetitions so that both people get a chance to go back and forth, and I don't have to, tell you to switch every time. So after 5 repetitions, please switch. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to add is I am going to ask, we're going to change the roles. So now the coach is going to be the one attacking in the manner that you just did, right? Exactly the same thing. And then now the student is going to be asked to make a parry. I am going to tell you what the 2 parries are very quickly, but I'd like you to explore and see whether you can find any others. So the easiest ones, so if Diego takes the spine on me and he begins to attack, the easiest one is to parry with my buckler over to the side. The harder one was to let his sword slide into my guard by me making a ramp and pushing my strong back onto his weak. So basically, we reverse that position by pulling our sword back and rotating it before they're fully formed. Does that make sense? So those are the two good actions for the parry. See if you can find another one. Okay? Do not push back towards your body. So you can't quick pause. So now, the student who is making the parry may now also riposte. Right up.
Sword and buckler?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty much the same as rapier and dagger. I feel like.
Right.
Yeah, so I feel like I'd be good at it. Yeah. I think it's also just kind of fun just to pick up a shield and sword and bash somebody with it, you know. Yeah, this is Martina's main weapon set, isn't it?
Well, it's been many years since she's really done it. She likes it.
Yeah.
She's never really done any sparring or anything. But she was
Yeah, it's almost like a Eastern European thing where they're like really big in the sword and buckler up there, like in Bulgaria.
long sword and sword and buckler.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Very common.
Very medieval.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no real good reason. I kind of not trained it for so long that it's just almost like, well, for whatever reason, started focusing on it right here and save it. It's just like, it's hard to do too many things.
No, I'm glad that you did though.
All right.
I feel like
So,
it's kind of good.
what do you guys think? So first of all, can I ask a simple question? Do you think that this find action works? Do you think that you are holding your opponent's sword out as long as you maintain that initial interaction of the strong on the weak? It does work, but then there's the question of now we've learned a parry, which changes that relationship and then causes it to fail, right? Because if we push so that the relationship is now our strong on their weak. Wait. So if we're trying to attack, we want our strong on their weak, and then they change that so that our weak is on their strong. Now they have that same advantage that we just had before. This is the beginning of actual fencing, because now we can go back and forth and try to find this position as we're interacting in space and in time and during attacks, right? So, that's the foundation of our fencing system. Do you have this initial advantage that allows you to attack? Does your opponent take it away from you or allow you to maintain it? Do they push futilely, or do they make a ramp and change the position of the swords? In the moment that they try to do that, are you able to stop them from doing that by making a ramp yourself and keeping them on your sword? It gets a little bit complicated at that point. But that's what's hard about fencing, right? Okay, so this is a pretty simple action. The idea is that between the weapons, there's a very good opportunity to hit. And the reason that it's a good opportunity to hit is because you can stay away from their buckler as you control their sword with your sword. Another option, of course, would be to control their sword with your buckler as you go in. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but we can't go over too much just because of the amount of time. Okay, so that's the first fundamental attack, attacking between the weapons. Okay, the next fundamental attack is attacking outside of the sword. So in our initial position in Porta, if we hold it correctly instead of incorrectly with a big hole in the middle, right? Then we open up to the outside of the sword, right? We agree this is open based on the guard that we take. So I'll hold it, I'll show you. This is open, right? You can see it's open to my shoulder. Is it bad that it is open this way? I know where my opponent is going to attack because I have told them where they can attack. And if they do choose to attack somewhere else, like for example, right into my buckler, it's not going to go well for them, right? So if I hold this guard well and I hold it in position, I'm only inviting on one line really, which is to this shoulder. They could also attack under my buckler, but that's quite far away, so harder to do. This one's easy to do. I do think that they're going to attack that way. And in both cases, I'm prepared to go down if they go this way for the worst attack, but mostly I'm prepared to come over this way for the better attack. So we're going to practice this first as just an attack with the find in the same way that we did before. There are a couple different ways to take the find, a couple different hand positions. I'm not going to go through the hand positions in much depth, but you guys know that this is second, perhaps, this is third, and this is fourth. I'm just going to use those quickly, but if you want a better explanation, do that. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose any one of those hand positions, and I'm going to take the find, and then I'm going to thrust, and then my coach is going to press against my sword and confirm that I have done a good job of resisting their force, and that I'm ready to resist the force of their sword. They are not going to do it as I attack. They're going to wait until afterwards because they're my coach, and then we're training right now. We're not smashing. Does that sound good? So we're just going to make a nice thrust to this invited opening so that we can feel what it's like when it's not contested. Sound good? All right, right up. Oh, line up to your partner again, and then we are going to switch. One second though, one second. So, mustache friends. You stay in position, and then everyone skips you as they make their rotation, right? So, Martina, you rotate to the mustache friend, and then we'll rotate this way, and then you rotate to here. And if you guys want to sit together. So you guys just don't rotate. Alright, so attacking outside the sword.
Yeah. How late did that work? All night?
Till the morning.
Until the morning, yeah.
When did you sleep?
When I got home at 8. Yeah. I do that certain times. I'll be leaving.
That's the new job that you're doing.
No, that's the old job. I've had that job.
You've had the night shift.
Yeah, since 2023, new job. I'll go back to it tomorrow. So, the hours not too
You're not
bad.
gonna have that back to back.
No. The night shift job is basically whenever I want to show up. So, yeah, that's the yeah.
Does a night shift typically pay a little more?
It does actually. I get paid a lot more with that job. I just hate it. It's so good. So good. Yeah.
It's almost a job. It's so boring. If you got paid.
Good. It's not like work. It's not like not what you do. Yeah. Like that's one of the reasons why I took this other job, the day shift job. At least I can walk around and actually do stuff. I don't expect to be there long. I just need to be there so I can get my stuff in my table.
So are you planning to, you said, like buy a camper or something?
Yeah. I'll be staying there for a while, man. Save some money because it's like
Further away, one full step
It's
further away.
insane.
I want you to advance and then lunge
I'm
to
so
the second.
lucky and
Okay,
thankful
so
I
the
was able to
two-step
do that.
process, step one is come into measure and take define, step two is actually attack. Ever referring to it, like for service, it's fine, but
speaking about a house, there's like 4 houses in the street there, on the same street. Right here in the school. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I saw it. I was passing by. It's sold out of the same organization. Yeah.
They just sold, you're saying, or they're for sale?
Well, they're for sale, but I'm sure they're probably some corporation trying to sell them or something like that. But, yeah, one of my good friends, he bought his house when we were like, 20 grand, you know. And he really did. I was like, why are you buying a house right now? You're not ready to do something like that. You know, that was the right call. That was the right call.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Kind of seemed odd at the time. So a smart move for the future. Kind of looking forward to picking up Sword and Buckler again. And like, it's been so many years and a lot of accumulated knowledge since then. Just use it like sacred paper.
Yeah, that's what's so good. You should have a lot more finesse with it. You know?
I think the side sword is the way to go.
Yeah, I was about to
Classic
say,
medieval sword is also
they have the Virginia side sword for sale in Costa Rica.
So we're gonna iterate this
Yeah,
throughout
that's
with the same partners.
Is it?
But now we're going
I've
to
got
have parry
my
attempts from the
Martinez
coach.
using it.
But this
Like,
parry
doesn't have a
attempt
cross on
is
one
going to
side.
fail. Why is this parry attempt going to fail? Because
Yeah,
the coach is going to kindly give us pressure back into our blades, into the strong, if we have a strong on the
It has a cross on this side.
right? So, I'm gonna be the coach.
Side swords are super.
I'm going to receive this thrust on the outside of my sword, and as Diego comes in with the fine, I'm going to push, but I'm not going to change the relationship that he sets. So I'm going to push, and then I'm going to receive the blow, and I'm going to give him this pressure back so that he knows that he has the right relationship. Now, if Diego makes a mistake and he slides down to my blade towards my, when I make this push, it's going to trivially easily push him to the side. And if he has the right relationship, then it's going to be easy for him to insist on the attack coming in. Okay. So the coach's job now is to give this to a challenge, not to beat them. And the challenge is that they have to be in the right position with the sword contact. Is that good? All right, good. You must stop, Diego. Diego, stop there. more. Yeah. And how was that put? Did you feel silent?
Before my week was on.
Do not slow your action. Do not try to go too fast. Make sure that you're slow and that you're really checking the right I want to know that you're pushing against the edge of the stop. So don't change the relationship between the soul and you. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to push the paper again. So you don't you just push sideways, just locally sideways. To get the feedback that you want, that you need, which is that All right, pause. So now we're going to, as the appropriate parent, we are going to switch the role of student and teacher like we did before. So now the student is going to be the one making a successful parry, right? So I just showed you what the wrong parry is, right? What is the right parry? That one's wrong. You can parry with your shield. That's right, that's one thing. What's the other? You can parry with your sword to reacquire the fine. That's what we call it. So you can make that slope in order to gather them back on your strong. So if I use my friend Diego again, if he comes along to the outside of my sword, I can certainly parry across like this with my buckler. You know, I could even take his tip with the edge of my buckler, or I can slide it across, right? Or alternatively with my sword, I can take that same changing of the interaction, kind of sliding down my blade into my strong kind of parry, right? So now the student is going to successfully parry the same attack from their coach, and the student should succeed if they do it right. However, for the coach, I would like you to give an earnest attack again in the same way that you were before. Don't speed up, don't use a ton of force, be solid in your structure, and try to give them the good initial setup so that they can parry correctly. Is that good? Try it out? Oh, yeah, keep the same partners for now and we'll go quick. And you can approach the way you parry. You can also rotate that. Ooh, it slipped. Ah! Yeah. You're saying when you try to post, you're running it. Well, I know exactly what's going on. So which is okay. Actually, that's people are still switching after 5, right? They switch after 5. Let's do a couple more. Alright, pause. Now I want you to do as a student who is parrying, still in the same scenario. I want you to add an additional element. So I just told you to parry in one of 2 ways. You can either parry with the shield or with the sword. When you parry with the sword, you're going to want to regather in this way. When you parry with the shield, you want to just parry off to the side, right? But what I want to add to you now is the idea that you keep your stuff together when you do that. You keep both things touching when you do that, no matter which one of the 2 you do. This is called staying joined, and this is what we should be doing at all times. We start our initial guard in there, we start joints so that we don't give that really favorable weapons. And then we stay joined when we do everything. When we push like this, we push them both together, we're very stable in that position. It's very similar to parrying a army sword or side sword with a long sword, is how much more stable it is if you use weapons together, right? Because they can maintain stability, they can add to the push, they can do so in a different place so that the fulcrum and lever system of our sword is moved up closer to the point of contact. It's very good to be able to do this. So if I work with Diego again, so what he's going to do is he is going to make the same thrust, and then I'm just going to make sure that I keep my weapons together, and I'm really going to focus on doing that when I parry. I'm still going to make the same, options for riposte. I'll make some riposte. It doesn't really matter which one. But I'm just going to make sure that my weapons stay together throughout the entire time. They should stay together during the riposte too. Just keep them together the whole time. All right. So same partners at this, and then we'll go on to the next thing. especially when it's practice. We're trying to practice. But sometimes it's we're thinking about the next thing. I'll try to support you. But can you, is it possible to keep them together while they're Sounds good. Come back in. We're going to switch to the next thing. People line up in this direction so I can talk to everybody at the same time. All right. So these are two fundamental attacks. These are both interacting with the sword in order to take advantage of the basic vulnerabilities of this default guard. This works both against the quarter guard that I personally prefer and against the longer guard that I somewhat less prefer. The reason that I disprefer the longer guard, the one further out, is because it offers the sword to be hit or to be found in this way, right? This shield is one out. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the third critical opening that sword and buckler intrinsically has, which is over the shield. Now, in our default position, the way that I told you to hold it, it's not open over the shield, right? Just the shield is in the way blocking that line. In order for us to practice this, we have to pretend that we are worse at holding this guard than we actually are. Right? We are capable of holding this guard. We've learned about the benefits of doing so, but instead we as the coach are going to invite over our shield. That means that we're going to lower it somewhat. However, when you're fighting in a tournament in HEMA, people don't hold these guards the way that I just showed them. They do not hold it out like this, right, the way that you're supposed to do it. Most of the time they hold it like this. This is the most common way that people fight sword and buckler, and some of the people who are rated very highly even do this, right? Why do they do that? Why would they not do what I told them? Because they're tired, and they're weak, and they didn't train, and they never learned from nobody, and they've forgotten the face of their father, and so, people do this a fair amount, and it's partially because they're tired, it's partially because they're athletic, and it's partially because they've been thinking about sword fighting and fighting with the sword, and they haven't really thought about the lovely advantages that the buckler brings. So, like, I have a teammate, for example, who's rated very highly in many weapons, and he is lovely, he's very fun. And this guy is capable of fighting like this, sword and buckler, and still winning. But it would be better for him if he would win more if he did that. Right? He can tell me different, maybe, but he's not. We are now going to pretend that we don't know about this guard and that we're doing something a little bit worse. We could do that in one of two ways. We could really hold a bad guard where we're quite open over the shoulder, or we could hold the same guard but lower, because we're inviting over the shoulder and intending for our opponent to see that as the opening. And indeed, when I was holding this before, the way I was holding it was equal with my left shoulder, so this line is closed, right? But I could also hold it with equal with my right shoulder, and then I can leave this open in a couple of different ways. I can do it like by being low, I can do it by being off to the right side. And my right shoulder is not available anymore as I shift left. So, your option on how you want to invite to that shoulder, but that's how I'd like you to set it up, with an actual invitation to your left shoulder as a coach, okay? So my coach is going to give me the same invitation, perhaps being low in this case because it's easier to describe. Go lower, go lower. Yeah, good. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my thrust over the shoulder. Now, if I were just to thrust in third position like this, it would be very easy for him to parry. But it is an opening that I have, and I could do that action. Right? We agree that I'm not going to hit it, but I could do it. If I am very fast, I might be able to do it. Right? If I'm just faster, if I'm targeting the top of his head, I might be able to do it. But I don't want to blast my friend in the head, and I kind of do want to hit him in the shoulder, and I do want to not be parried. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to start that same thrust in third, and then right when I get to about where his buckler is, when my weak crosses his buckler, I'm going to rotate my hand up, and then I'm going to hit. So this is rotating into what we call imbricata. This is rotating into first hand position from third. I find that this is quite smooth. And what happens a lot of the time is that you approach somebody and that you get to this point, and then you can just do it all at once. I don't want you to practice it that way. I would actually like for you to go like this and then rotate so that you can feel the whole thing, right? Does that make sense? So this is like a fundamental technique. It's very good. I know Tom does this all the time in Racer Dagger, so.
Are you finding the shield the same way you find the
Well, so the thing is, you can't find the shield. And the reason you can't find the shield is that the shield is all cross guard. The shield is only a cross guard. It has the same properties as a cross guard. As you see, these are the same distance away from my hand, the edge of my shield. And so if I want to touch his shield with my sword, I am making a mistake because I do not have that leverage. Any place that I hit on my sword except for the cross guard is a leverage disadvantage, right? So you actually can't find the shield with the sword. You have to avoid it. And this is why you go over like this, because actually what you're doing is you're starting with one angle, right? And then I'm changing an angle so that even if he comes up with the shield, it kind of like clacks in behind the point of rotation that I'm trying to build up. And then I can still hit, right? And I'm trying to find that orientation. So good? Okay, right up. Oh, sorry, pause. Rotate. And I'll fast right these guys in. the coach now to challenge the student to make sure that it's right. So what I want you to do now is a little bit trickier than what I asked you to do last time. Last time I was just saying give lateral pressure that doesn't change the relationship between the blades. Now I'm asking you to do something at a particular time. It's a little trickier, but I think you can. Okay. What I'm going to ask you now to do is, at the moment when your opponent has finished turning upwards, now I want you to push up so that they get the pressure back against their sword that makes them have to go in the sky. Even go, yeah, there we go, right. So what's going to happen is, basically, Diego's going to be forced to make this arc upwards in order to hit me appropriately, right? So I'll do it the same way. So when I go a little lower, here, right? So that I have to push my hand up into the sky in order to get around this. So I've done this a lot in tournaments, and I've done it a lot with rapier and dagger as well. It's the same action in rapier and dagger. What will happen is your opponent will try to parry with the weapon up like this. You have to get behind it, and you have to be able to do this rotational action. If you fail to do this rotational action, it will actually be parried. Okay? Okay, try that. So challenge, coaches, please challenge your students by trying to parry, but only too late. That's right. Sometimes you get ahead. So. So as a that was good because this case went off. I didn't want to like in their rotation, what's the style? So if you won't stop so very far back, it's harder for you to do this because it wants to it'll just like correctly. I can't tell what I want forward. Even though the parry is I don't so what yes, I will have to have your left arm fairly forward in order to hold this. So I like to hold it with my left arm almost all the way out, a little bit back. Sorry, my left arm a little. So my left arm. Well, almost clear, but I'm saying my right sword arm a little forward. But that requires you to tuck your. Anyway, so somewhere it should be like just a little forward. But anyway, that's not actually that. It's mostly like can you hold your knuckle in that position that you want. All right, nice. Pause. Looking good. Thank you for challenging your partners. We will now actually talk about how to carry this, and this is the last thing in the hour. We'll get some water and take a few minutes of break. So do you agree that if you get pretty close to someone, making this angle over once you have your hand in this high position is actually pretty easy. You can get behind their shields and you can wreak havoc onto their body. If they parry too late, you will also accidentally smash them in the face. Did anyone have that happen? Where like they parry too late, and they just parried it to their face, right? That sucks, but you know that's the score target. Yeah, so be careful when you're doing this one. Okay, so what is it about the parry that I just recommended that didn't work? What was it about it that what was the part about it where I told you you needed to fail? Like, what was the critical element that made it fail? Yeah, it's too late. It's too late, right? So the thing about this action is that basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to arc your sword over their guard, so that you create like almost a circle over it, like a half circle over it. And then on the far end of that half circle, when they put pressure on it, it just pushes your sword like kind of around, not away, right? Just around. So what we're going to do instead, as the person who's successfully parrying, is we're going to maintain contact with their weak and not allow it to get past our the defending companion, right? And so in order to do this, the best way to do it is to take a small step backwards. Because as they commit to this step, if we maintain that same position, we can very easily maintain the relationship of our cross guard, so to speak, our shield on their weak. So as Diego goes up to do this, I'm giving a nice invitation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to maintain contact with his weak. And I'm going to take a small step back. So let's reset it and do it a little more speed. Right? So I'm just going to maintain this contact. I'll take a little step back, right? Okay, so now, we're not going to do this, but I just want to, so if Diego were to keep pushing in after this, and he keeps pushing in, I will just maintain this position forever. There's no reason that I have to move. I can continue to move back and just keep this position. Another way that I could do it, if I wanted to, and I'm not saying they should do this, and I don't think you should do this, you should just take a little step back. It's very easy to do that. But another thing that you could do is pause, slow. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to retract my arm, and as he continues to come in, I continue to retract my arm, and I keep this relationship between my buckler and his sword. The reason that we don't want to do this, even though we could, is because we don't want to give away that position that we hold out in front of us and all the angular advantages that gives. As you saw, if he even moved his hand just a little bit, he would have hit me in the head. So I don't, we don't really want to do that. We want to keep him far away from his sword, far away from us, and on our cross guard, so to speak, right on our buckler cross guard, right? Does that make sense? So to just take a little step back, keep your shield up, and then maintain contact with their. So that's what the student is going to do, and then what the coach is going to do is they're just going to do the same action that they just did at a slow enough pace that their student can practice. Okay? All right, try that. Well, so actually, so if you can't use the angle pressure here, that's okay. But I think that in this case, but if you were we catch off this thing, it's just that's kind of like it really requires you I mean, like, wait, sorry.
Well, I saw it.
Oh no, I think I wouldn't say that a correctable change. I would say that's the same. Well, actually, it might even be better, but it's less reliable because I don't think you want to hold your buckle like this most of the time. You want to angle it when you can catch, right? When you already know what they're going to do. Because it's ray pattern coming in. One of the books has like a bunch of rays coming out of it, and I thought that it looked like bullets, like hitting someone behind, I'm protected from all these bullets, Right, pause. So, am I correct in thinking that this is pretty easy if you take a step back? Yes. Okay. we don't have to belabor that for too long. That is the correct counter. Okay, so now let's talk about this, broaden it back out to the entire, view of this first hour. So, we needed to go through a bunch of these simple attacks and parries so that we can continue to work in this space. The thing that we're trying to do, by me, giving you these basics, even if you already know what you should be doing in this case, is so that we can work on all the specifics of it, think about the bind, think about, the timing, think about that little step back that will make this, successful. And if you train them all together, then you understand why you must do each thing. I want to make a little comment about that, retreat at the end, because we just did that. So, at other times when you were parrying, were you taking a step back naturally? You weren't, right? Probably today. Why? Well, I didn't tell you not to. I didn't tell you to, though. I didn't tell you to. That's definitely true. That's completely true. But it's natural not to. Why? Great point. Those parries are more secure because this one's actually a pretty sick hook if you start with it in the right place, and it's actually based on distance that it becomes a problem. That's a great point. There's another reason. I heard it later.
For me, was your brain fighting go forward?
Yeah, you want to repose. I told you that you were going to repose right after. You want to be able to hit your opponent. Actually, you can hit your opponent as they come in and they maintain this position where they're on your shield. Definitely, by almost definition, you can still make the hit, but it makes sense that you want them to come to you so that you can then do the thing back to them. However, I would actually argue that often you want to take a step back during the parry anyway so that you get just a little bit more time and then you can set that distance just so. But that's an advanced skill and it's quite tricky to get it in all the places that you want. So we're not talking about that too much today, but is that good? Okay, so let's take a little break for water, let's take a few minutes and then we'll come back in and we're going to work on some more complex actions.